Peace, y'all. It's Randy, the MGC.
Peace, y'all. This is Goya.
Alright, so we're back again with another video, and this one is on a hot topic. So this one, we're going to talk about, why relationships fail. First, I wanted to just kind of go into, what mating is, what dating is, and why one should even do either, or moreover, let's say, why a person should mate, right? So first and foremost, I see the mass dysfunction, in the black community. There's many single parent homes, and that's not it's not I want to say convenient, but it's not conducive to nation building, or black empowerment. So we have persons in the conscious community, talking about nation building or talking about black empowerment and empowering the black families, but you have to have a family first, a unit, to actually have that foundation for upliftment. So what is a family, right? Well, a family is the Trinity, man, woman, and child, right? So we got that out the way. Now, second of all, mating versus dating, right? What's the difference? All right, so dating, many people generalize dating, some say casual sex is a part of dating, some say not. There's many different things, friendship, you might have a friend, you might be a man and have a woman as a friend, you're on a friend zone, and I'll go on different dates, whatever, but is that dating? Well, we know it's not mating, right? So I'm about to give the definition of mating. So mating, however, is doing so with a purpose, right? Committing to another person for a purpose, right? So instead of just getting together and having a child, and now we're together, it just is what it is now. Rather than that mindset, we want to go about, we want to go about, the topic of, committing to someone, on a basis of upliftment, and building something that's going to be long lasting, rather than temporary, rather than shallow or vain, right? So we're going to go into the reasons why people, separate. Did you have anything you want to add?
Nah, I think you introduced the subject very well.
Word.
Yeah, we kind of want to talk about like the reasons people typically marry for or get into a relationship for, and why I usually eventually end up failing.
Mm-hmm.
So age is one of them. People get into relationships, but the age is they're not getting into the relationship at the right time. Either they're too young or they're too old, and they're expecting certain things to happen, but they're older, so they really should be they shouldn't be looking for a mate. They should actually already be in an established relationship, had a family, and so the age ends up becoming a conflict, and it seems like people don't really, maybe are unaware of that age plays a factor.
Mm-hmm. To add into that, so there's too young, and then there's too young in the sense of not mature enough, not having those foundational principles of what it is you're actually doing while you're engaging in the activity, and then with the too old, really is the mindset is the difference. You're never really too old to really mate, but as far as the mindset that you would have when you're 40 or 50 should be different than your mindset of going into mating when you're 20 or 30. So of course we want to talk about our actual culture, which is, you know, different from Western culture. So, you know, Western culture is, you know, usually people mate when they the same age. You know, that's very common. You know, some people, you know, may differ a little bit, but usually that's the culture of, you know, Western world. But in our culture, you know, a man will be mating typically, you know, with a woman younger than himself. You know, that's typical for, and usually a man would, you know, start that process when he's, I should say, not start the process, but usually he's in good fit, you know, as far as to indulge, you know, in courting a woman, you know, when he's 40, you know, and because women mature at a much faster rate, you know, their maturity level, you know, makes it so that they can mate at a much younger age, and also because of the science, the anatomy of the female is that their body actually declines, you know, production wise as they get older. So if a woman is 40 and a man is 40, then that's not the ideal type of situation scientifically, because of, you know, the production abilities or capabilities, I should say, of the woman, you know, severely decreases. So it's you know, it's just science. You know, I'm not gonna fight against science. So our culture is made in such a way that it works with nature. You know,
right.
what you want to add?
I just want to add on the flip side with a woman, it's better for her to mate with a man that's older because he's wiser, he has more experience, he's better directed. He will be way better at leading her versus a young male that's the same age. Like, he's still trying to figure out, you know, his life and what he wants to do, and still learning. And so he's too young to establish a family. He's building his empire. So it'd be wise for him to do that. And for a younger woman that's ready to have children during her childbearing ages, to get with an older man that's ready to be mentally, you know, mature to, you know, take care of her and a child and things like that. So
most definitely. Good point.
Yeah.
So did you want to break into, you can go ahead and break into the next topic.
People get into relationships because of sex. The sex is good.
Yeah. That's real.
I mean,
that's often because they engage for the wrong reasons, you know. So, you know, you might be at home lonely and, you know, want some affection, etc. You know, and when you engage in casual sex, that's one thing. But when you are actually mating, there should be a different mindset. It should be a different, you know, strategy, you know, that's in place in order to go about that. So if you are in bed with this person and you don't know what they plan, you know, their plans are, their purpose, and what, you know, what they're striving towards, etc., the rest of these things on the list, then, you know, you kind of did things, you know, but backwards. That's the edited version. Yes, indeed.
And then there's some people too that get into relationships with people who have a different religion, or they have a different spiritual practice than them, and that could usually cause conflict in the long run in the relationship, of why it fail.
Most definitely.
You know, some people go into relationships knowing that the other person practices something different, and they'll still proceed with mating with that person, and even starting a family with them.
Right. And an example of that would be like, you know, one person's one religion, the other person's a different religion, and the son or you know, one of the parents wants the son or daughter to get baptized, and the other parent is like, no, I, you know, don't want them to be baptized, etc., because, you know, I want them to be this, you know. Well, you know, you knew at the time of getting together that, you know, there was a conflict there, you know, of, you know, each religion has their own culture, you know, that they're, take on as well. So within that culture, or I should say within that religion, they have certain practices, certain principles, certain rules. So if you don't know the rules and principles of that other person, or you don't agree to the rules and principles that other person agrees to and, indulges in, then you're going to have conflict. Simple as that.
Right. And then also a lot of people, they get into relationships based off money. Like the person can provide for them. And then relationship end up failing in the end because of financial reasons. That's like one of the biggest reasons.
Right. Most definitely. Getting together just because a person has a lot of money, it's like if you have to, it's important obviously, but it shouldn't be the only thing that you focus on. There's, many other things that, play a role into, the mating process, as far as if you, don't want to later on find out that this person is not a match, not a fit. So. Yeah.
Sometimes both people are struggling and that causes conflict, and they end up starting to, build an empire. They'll have children, but they didn't have the foundation of having enough resources, and so, and then sometimes if a man isn't providing, the woman is providing, then that causes conflict. So the money becomes issue again.
Right.
Or,
that's actually somewhat of a common thing of, the man might be making little to no money, and the woman is, bringing in money, a constant flow, and causes, strife, so that's something to take into consideration. I'm not saying that you shouldn't mess with someone or that you shouldn't mate with someone, because they have little money. I'm not saying that, but it's just something to consider. It should definitely be, largely considered, excuse me. As well as if both of y'all are making a decent amount of money, or one person is making a quote unquote decent amount of money, and then the other person is making, more, how does that infringe on the relationship? Usually that's more of like when the man is making less than usually because of, the ego, there's conflict and ego on both sides. So sometimes the woman is using that as a defense mechanism, to belittle the man's authority, and in the other cases, the man might be, feel inadequate or feel lesser than because he makes lesser than, and it's just something to consider. All of it really points back to self and being comfortable of, where you are.
Yeah. And then another reason people get into relationship like children, sometimes like women will get into a relationship where the man has multiple different, baby moms and, lots of children, but she'll proceed anyway. And then later it's like, okay, I'm sick of having to dealing with, all these other women. It's like, okay, well, and then, also like knowing that you want to have children, but mating with somebody or getting into a relationship with somebody that doesn't want to have children, and that can become a conflict or a reason you'll divorce later on. Right. So like, just ignoring those signs of like, okay, this person's not compatible, but you'll proceed anyway, and the relationship fail, and then,
And that, of course, like I said before, man, woman, and child. That's the ideal situation. Really, it takes a village to raise a child, but at the very least, just the foundation is it takes two parents to raise a child. So when you have that type of conflict, I shouldn't say. Let me put it like this: when you have a person that already has a child, there's a different type of mindset that you have to come into that relationship with, rather than two persons coming together and there's no children on either end, as of yet. Both are on a somewhat equal playing field, if you will. If you do not have children and you're thinking about courting someone that has children, you have to, like she said, think about that, the child's father or the child's mother, and you have to, in essence, have an agreement. That's key. You have to have an agreement, especially if the person that is, no longer with, that parent is. Let me be more specific. Let's say there's a man who has no child and he's courting a woman that has children. Well, there has to be an agreement if that the other man, that is the biological father, if he's still in that person's life, you have to have, a working agreement, between the three of them, so it's a little tricky. It gets tricky, when with that type of situation, because, a lot of people have trouble agreeing, a lot of times there's strife and, heartache still, and, etc. So.
Yeah. And then another reason people get into relationships because of status, just strictly off of the other person's resume. Like, like they usually happen like in relationships with like celebrities a lot. I want this person because of, the attention I would get, and then realize that maybe that you're unfulfilled, maybe because that person's success is overshadowing yours, maybe.
Right.
Could be many different reasons, like,
Yeah. So like a status symbol, like, if you're dating someone who is, any somewhat of a status symbol, that has to be taken into account too, so, now you are engaging with someone who is, their life is, basically being displayed in the public's eye. So, that's something to take into consideration, that the things you do, they have a certain type of effect, and the things that the other person does have a certain type of effect, as well on, how you're viewed and, etc. So it's just something to take into account.
Yeah, and then I was gonna say, like, men do it sometimes with, like, the woman with, you were saying, like, with the big ass, and I want this woman because she's right. What they be calling them, like, she's
big, she, they say many different things.
Yeah, but they just want the woman because of how she look, and so right. just to dangle her on their arm type of thing, but then they realize, someone may be like, oh, we're not really vibing that well. I just liked her because of how she looked and how she's perceived by the world. Right,
her physical appearance, physical anatomy, which is, it's important, if that's something that you feel like you need and want, then, that's something it's something to take into consideration. But, or I should say that's something that you should go after more of. But the other things that we, have listed and that we are listing should be taken into account as well. Those things should not be ignored. So, I guess we'll go ahead and leave it at that. We are going to have a part 2 to this video. Thank you for tuning in. Please hit like, subscribe, share it, all that good stuff. Was there anything else you want to share?
That was it. We'll be coming back with a part 2 soon. We're going to have a series of videos in regards to how to choose a qualified mate.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. All right, so till the next time, y'all be safe. Of course, be a great care.